Hello, welcome to Technically Analytics. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the St. Louis Cardinals again, but this time we're going to be focusing on the pitching. Now, the pitching for the Cardinals was pretty interesting, and we'll get into it in a second. But first, let me just repeat some of the facts about the Cardinals that I said in my last video. In the last video, I mentioned that the Cardinals were in first place in the NL Central with a record of 93-69 in 2022, and they lost a wild card series to the Philadelphia Phillies. And then in 2023, the Cardinals came in fifth place at 71-91. And this is basically where the story begins. So we're going to start by looking at the Cardinals pitching staff. As you can see, you can see that a lot of pitchers struggled, but none more so than Miles Mikolas and Giovanni Gallegos. Those are the two pitchers we're going to be focusing on. Now, you might see Jordan Montgomery up there with a 3.42 ERA. I did a video on him in his time with the Rangers because he was traded at the trade deadline this season, and he really killed it for them. So go check out that video on the channel. So Miles Mikolas and Giovanni Gallegos. Mikolas is a starter, and Gallegos is a relief pitcher, and they both struggled more so than you would have thought. So let's focus on Mikolas first. Mikolas is a pitcher, or a starting pitcher. He's been in the league for 6 years or 7 years. He just recently signed a 3-year, $55 million deal with the Cardinals. He's 35 years old. So, he's an established guy. He's a known commodity in the MLB. And when you switch over to his career stats, you can see that he's played for a few teams, quite a few teams. And there's some gaps where he was hurt and stuff. But anyway, he's been in the Cy Young conversation before. He's played with the Cardinals for the past few years. And you can see that his ERA does go up and down. Like he's a career guy that kind of he fluctuates. And there's guys like this. They're not aces because their ERA, sometimes they have a good year, then they have a bad year. They're up and down. So in that style, he's done it again in 2021, 423, in 2022, 329, and in 2023, 478. So he did exactly what he's been doing his whole career, and he put up a bad one this time, a pretty bad one. All-Star, he was an All-Star last year. He made an All-Star game in 2018 as well, and he put up a bad one. ERA plus of 91. A FIP of 427, a WHIP of 1.316. Hits per 9, 10. Home runs per 9, 1.2. And walks per 9, 1.7. Strikeouts per 9, 6.1. Now, if you just look at these numbers, the bold means he led the league. So he led the league in hits given up, earned runs, and batters faced. Now, obviously, a big reason for that is he had 10 hits per 9, which is a lot of hits. Home runs, he didn't give up that many home runs, only 26. That's not too bad. I mean, only one less than last year, only one more than last year. But his walk rate is pretty decent, and that's what we'll see later on in this, and when we switch to his sliders. Now, his sliders are on Baseball Savant, and you can see at the top the run value, which we'll get into in a second, off speed, because he's a sinker guy, slider guy. But when you go down to his pitching, everything is blue, which is bad. And one thing is red, and that is his walk rate, which was in the 96th percentile. He doesn't walk many guys, which is great. You want a guy with a low walk rate because you basically just give him the offense free base runners. I mean, that's not advisable, but that's what you do when you walk someone. So you can see that we're kind of getting a preview of what of what this guy's looking like. You see his pitch. Now, run value is my favorite stat because it measures the value of each pitch based on how many runs it allows or disallows. So you can see this is kind of a preview of the run value. Now we're going to go straight into that. The run value, I'm comparing him to 2022 because he had a pretty good ERA, and you can see where the drop off comes. Now, obviously, his changeup was much better starting from the bottom. He went from -1 run value in 2022 to +5, which is decent. He really was able to get that pitch working, but he lost on a slider quite significantly by 6, -5 from 1. His slider was decent still. He improved actually on that. So his slider and changeup were better, but he lost big on his curveball and sinker. Now I want to focus on the sinker because he had a run value of 8 in 2022, and he has a run value this year of -12, and that's not great. But when you go into the stats over on the side, you can see that batters had a 343 batting average against him, slugging percentage of 5.55, a WOBA of 4.14, and he barely got people to whiff on it, barely got Ks with it. I mean, he just could not find his sinker. Now, part of the reason for this is where he was putting the ball. Now, you can see in 2023, he put the ball in the middle. Yeah, he put the ball in the middle of the zone, like kind of middle, almost like basically just in the middle, which is not a great place to put any baseball because that's where hitters like to hit. A lot of hitters love the middle of the zone. That's their favorite place. So when you look at 2022, the difference is pretty big because it goes from the middle of the zone to the edge, to like the bottom corner of the zone, just on the outside edge of it, which is where you want to put your ball. If you're gonna throw anywhere in the zone, you want to be on the edges. You want to paint the corners. So I think that's where Nicholas really struggled the most, is locating his slider. That seems to be his biggest weakness, was the location. The other pitchers, I couldn't find any location issues. It seemed pretty similar. It's probably movement or spin, but I didn't see any major differences. So moving on, we're going to focus on Gallegos. Now, Gallegos is a relief pitcher. He's been in the league for about 4 or 5 years. He just signed a 2-year, $11 million deal with a 2025 team option. He throws right-handed. Gallegos he's been in the league for a little bit, and he's played with a few teams, starting out with the Yankees and then moving to St. Louis for the past couple of years. So Gallegos is another one of those guys. He's been pretty decent throughout his whole career. Like, he hasn't really had that much of a struggle. He's always been at least an average starter or average reliever, just kind of, he's not Edwin Diaz out there, but he's not bad though. Like, he's not terrible. But this year he really struggled. Like, he had some struggles. So his ERA plus was a 99. His FIP was 436, WHIP 1.2, hits per 9 8.8, home runs per 9 1.8, which is very high. Walks per 9 2, strikeouts per 9 9.7. Now that's not too bad. The 9.7, I mean, he's a reliever, so take that with a grain of salt, but the walks per 9 isn't bad. The hits is better than Nicholas, but the home runs that's not good. 1.8. He gave up 11 home runs, which is 5 more than he gave up actually, it's the most of his career high for him. And his walks were down, which is great. Strikeouts were down. So, and he pitched a similar amount of games as he did last year too. So he really struggled. But of course, there's always a reason behind the struggle. Now, if we move to Baseball Savant and his sliders, you see at the top his run values kind of similarly down, not very good. But when you go down to the bottom of it, you see that his chase, his whiff percentage, his K percentage, sort of, and his walk percentage is really good. He was able to make batters miss. That's why his strikeouts are still good. That's why he, it's just he's missing somewhere, or he's just throwing flat pitches or something. That's usually the case. But I don't know. I mean, you can't really tell from here which pitch it might be. But if you go to the run value chart, like we always we can see that actually every pitch of his is just wasn't working for him. The four-seamer, I mean, that could be just a variant. I mean, it's very, very little movement, about two run value down. That could be just luck, if anything. But the biggest one to me is the slider, 9 in 2022 to -3 in 2023. And if you compare it, I mean, he went from a 266 slug on it to 447, 235 WOBA to 319, 183 batting average to 214. I mean, so it seems like he's just missing sometimes, and it's every time he misses, it's a home run, or it's a triple, or it's a double. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the thing. And he only has 3 pitches. He only has a four-seamer, slider, and changeup. So he, and he mostly uses his four-seamer and slider. He's basically trying to do an Edwin Diaz type thing with a changeup, but changeup really doesn't do anything. He only threw 31 of them last year, and he threw 49 of them the year before. So anyway, that's gonna wrap up the video for today. I think that these two pitchers struggling is kind of like a microcosm of why the Cardinals had such a bad record in 2023, why they went from first to last. It's pretty weird. I think they're gonna bounce back. I think they're gonna rebuild. Free agency is starting soon, so coming up in December, I'll have some more baseball videos surrounding free agency. Shohei Ohtani's gonna sign eventually. A bunch of good free agents out there, so stay tuned. Like and subscribe, and let's go baseball.